Hello, my name is Maud Weaver. My pronouns are they, them, and welcome to the Student Association of George Brown College's Fall 2020 Election Forum. I have been invited to moderate the debate on behalf of the Dialog, George Brown student newspaper. Today, we will be speaking with candidates for the following SAGBC positions: the Director of Communications and Internal, Director of Operations, and the Community Services and Early Childhood Educational Center representative. In roughly the next 45 minutes, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and their platform. Then there will be a question period. And to all candidates, please mute your mics when it is not your turn to speak in order to reduce background noise. We will be starting with opening statements. First, from the person running for Director of Communications and Internal, Taranjeet Singh Manchanda.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Taranjeet Singh Manchanda, and my preferred pronouns are he and him. My opening statements, I'll be brief, and I'll make sure I present my agenda for the upcoming year. So I've been closely associated with the student movement from the past 1.5 years, and I've been working in the Student Association as a board member and then as a Director of Education and Equity at present. I've been working for international students, domestic students, LGBTQ students, racialized, Black, Indigenous students, and making sure our voices are being heard in campuses at George Brown. My plans for the year, as if elected as the Director of Communications and Internal, would be making sure we have accountability and transparency within our organization, and we're making sure we are holding George Brown accountable for its actions and making sure students get what they deserve. So basically, we plan to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place to make sure George Brown is catering to the needs of the students, making it an inclusive and accessible campus everywhere at George Brown. So yeah, I'll be working on policies relating to inclusivity and accessibility, from helping students to reach out to the Student Association for its services, events, benefits, and our solidarity work we do. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaking will be candidate for Director of Operations, Sagar Sharma.
Well, hello everyone, my name is Sagar Sharma and I'm the candidate running in fall election 2020 for the position of Director of Operations in the Student Association, George Brown College. So first of all, I would like to thank everybody present here for taking your precious time and even in this pandemic situation and attending the forum. So as being the candidate for Director of Operations, I'm aware of the roles and responsibilities of this position, which are merely working with the finance to review statements and manage the Student Association's financial position, making recommendations on capital expenditures and budgetary issues to finance committee. Other than this, I have several points and agendas to work on, which directly will benefit our students. And I'm very much concerned about the pandemic situation right now. And what I personally feel is that students really need the support from Student Association. So I would like my actions to be more effective than my words. Hence, I would make sure all my actions would be in favor of students and a member of Student Association. And I want to make Student Association and GBC more accountable and to be more responsible in terms of taking care of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will be hearing from the two candidates for Community Services and Early Childhood Educational Center representative. First, we will be hearing from Stefan Enrique Joseph Calikaden.
Hi, Maud. Thank you for the introduction. As Maud just introduced me, my name is Stefan Enrique Joseph Calikaden, and I'm running for the position of Community Services and Early Childhood Educational Center representative. I firstly want to thank everyone for taking the time out to watch this interview with your potential future representatives on the Student Association, Student Government of George Brown College. With my campaign, I would like to look forward to making our center more inclusive in terms of firstly starting with the name of our center, because it takes away from the School of the Deaf and Deafblind Studies that is actually included in our center. And secondly, I would also reach out to all my fellow students across the center to receive feedback from them on how they've been approached by the college and how they felt throughout this first fall semester during the pandemic. Additionally to this, I have been working within my program in creating a space between the first and second year students to broaden the inclusivity of our program itself. So I would like to take this initiative further and create more inclusivity center-wide. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we will be hearing from Community Services and Early Childhood Educational Center Representative Candidate, Victoria Villanueva.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria. And right now I'm currently in my second semester of my community worker fast track. Prior to this, I did my early childhood education and I got my diploma. So a bit about my background. I volunteer for CAMH in the youth advisory group. And I also volunteer for Stella's Place, which is a young adult mental health inclusive nonprofit. And with that, what I've done there, I help with advocacy, helping put in a voice for policies as well, programming, and also with research. While as a young adult council member, I also was key in establishing the organizational process in there. So the reason why I want to run is I've noticed that my classmates have had great suggestions, feedback, and some grievances. And especially with these unprecedented times, it has been challenging to find a place where we could voice our concerns or suggestions, ideas, or praise. However, this is bigger than that, to be an educational rep, because it's also looking not just me representing my program, but it's also representing the students at the School of Deaf and Deafblind, and also representing the social service workers, the early childhood educators, assaulted women and children counseling / advocacy. There's many different programs, and I have a lot of asks, and some of these asks, especially from what I've been hearing, I'm not able to give within as an educational rep, such as programming. But what I would like to establish is student empowerment. And by that, I would like to make a student advisory group. George Brown has done this before, and we can do it again, and we can do it with some updates. So that's what my main platform is, and what if anything I bring in, that is the one thing I would love to implement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now that we've heard everyone's introductions and platforms, we will be moving into questioning, and we will start with asking questions of the Community Services and Early Childhood Educational Center representatives. So first, for Stefan, what are the priorities among your potential constituents?
Some of my priorities would be taking into consideration the many student grievances of my fellow classmates in my program and center-wide, and finding out what are the expectations of the professors across our programs in the center, and finding a common ground that benefits the students' education, because I believe that education is a vital part of our growth in society and as community service and early childhood education graduates will be one of the significant groups in shaping society for the future generations. So that's one of my major concerns.
Thank you. And Victoria, what are the priorities among your potential constituents?
I've heard more of the people in my program, and I acknowledge that I need to be more accessible, and I need to do more outreach with other people in the program, other students in the program. But the priorities that I keep hearing are about transparency and clarity, especially during these times with COVID, because there's some things that are up in the air. Placements, we do have our own questions and feedback about it, but again, that's not really our area. But I would like to have a group of where they're able not just to voice it, but hopefully they can establish themselves into having certain initiatives or call to actions, and where they would feel heard. And another thing I would like to voice out, it's adjusting tuition. I hear we're not going to make it on that one, but it doesn't hurt to try.
Thank you. Now, Stefan, part of your job is building a relationship between your dean and the SA. With the term ending in May, how do you expect to do this in such a brief period of time?
So from my orientation session as a first year student, I had the opportunity of getting to know a new dean. And one of my first initiatives would be to reach out to our dean and chair and the higher faculty of our program and center, and create a common understanding between us of how we would go forward, working towards the goals that I have for our students and that the students have shared with me if I get elected into a term.
Thank you. And Victoria, part of your job is building a relationship between your dean and the SA. With the term ending in May, how do you expect to do this in such a brief period of time?
I think it's break things down into chunks, because I understand like some of these are big goals, but learning from my program, you got to take in even the small goals as a win. And so it's understanding where the faculty is coming from, where the staff is coming from, and seeing what they are able to do. And also while acknowledging the needs of the students. And so it's working together and seeing if there is a compromise, or if there is a way to make certain changes. And I understand it's a short amount of time, but hopefully it can get the ball rolling to help the next cohorts. And hopefully they have an easier time, or they're able to take in the change that we started to implement.
Thank you. So final question for Stefan. How can you make sure the diverse voices of your potential constituency are being heard?
So one thing about me is that I pride myself in being a confidant. So any information shared with me the information gets carried over without exposing who it is. So that's the way I plan on approaching sharing the diverse voices of my center without putting them at risk of any fallbacks of the information that they share with me.
Thank you. And last question for Victoria. How can you make sure the diverse voices of your potential constituency are being heard?
I want to make myself as accessible as I can, either by emailing me, maybe giving them my number, and also try to create opportunities of like certain hour times where we could video chat, maybe have a conversation, or give suggestions, or do anonymous feedbacks if they don't feel the need that they want to reveal themselves, because I want to make them feel comfortable, feel safe that their voices are heard. And also it's me reaching out and hopefully establishing the student advisory group as well, and making it more accessible for me to reach out to the students and to hear the programs, each program needs suggestions or ideas or feedback, and hopefully, and basically it's the students that lead me. And so I very much want to and need to and love to hear from them. And so it is one of my biggest priorities as an educational rep.
Thank you. So now we've heard from both of the community services and early childhood educational center representative candidates. We will be moving on to questioning the director of communications candidate. So Taranjeet, George Brown is a highly diverse college. How will you ensure that voices from all communities and intersections are being heard?
Thank you for the question. One of my priorities, if elected as a director, would be making sure that the board I work closely with the board of directors, especially with the director of student experience, who has the opportunity to conduct surveys and experience surveys to make sure we at the SA are catering to the diverse needs of the population. So be it the racialized students, indigenous students, international students, domestic students, LGBTQ plus students. So I'll make sure that the organization is catering to all the needs, and we at the organization represent what we stand for.
Thank you. And how do you think the SA can serve students better as we continue to navigate the ongoing pandemic and digital learning environment?
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening statement, my priority will be advocating and making sure we are working towards an inclusive and accessible George Brown, making sure that this pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons. So being in the organization, I would ensure that we have the proper resources and we have the proper staffing to make sure we are providing to the students and making sure during this virtual era / Zoomification we are doing, we're making sure that students don't feel behind, focusing on mental health, advocacy, and lobbying to the school. So, yeah.
Thank you. And final question for the Director of Communication candidate. How will your experiences or observations of oppression impact the ways in which you work to be equitable and confront issues such as anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism?
Thank you. This issue has been really close to my heart as I'm working as the Director of Education and Equity at the Student Association at the moment. We have been advocating for Black lives and Indigenous lives on campus and across the province. So I'll make sure that we have an inclusive and accessible policy within the Student Association, but also making sure as the official spokesperson of the organization, if elected, to have conversations with George Brown and the senior leadership to make sure student voices and the faculty voices are being represented in different demographics.
Thank you. So those are the 3 questions we have for the Director of Communications candidate. Next, we will be moving on to the Director of Operations candidate. So Sagar, How do you expect students to trust that their money is being spent in a meaningful way?
Well, that's a very nice question, Mark. And for my position, that's one of the major agendas and one of the major roles and responsibility which I have to face. And as being in the operations background since long, even before coming to George Brown College, I have been uh, managing various projects and their operations. So I know how a operation is being carried out, and especially when it comes to financial and budgetary things. So I'll definitely make sure students that uh, whatever the whatever the decision we make in the association, whatever the financial decision, whatever the budgetary policies we make, they are in respect to benefit the students, especially indirectly, which is, I think, which concerns the students most, that what we are getting, what facilities we are getting. So I would definitely will quench the thirst from the students that their money is being uh, at the right at the is being invested at the right for the right cause, for their welfare. So yes, like that.
Thank you. And during the uncertain age of COVID-19, amid lower enrollment numbers, how would you propose SA fees be adapted to make sure the Student Association is strong and providing the same level of service to students while also being accountable with their fees?
Well, yes, that's also a very tricky situation that we know that people are really managing their finances very hard, and they're trying to manage their expenses and all. And so, first of all, I will definitely make sure that there would be no downfall in the working of student association, and whatever the services we are giving, definitely there will be upgrades, there will be situations, there will be more agendas and good things coming for the students. And I'll definitely make sure that if we come to some conclusion, then we can reduce the amount which we charge from the students, and somehow collectively, and conducting so many meetings together, we'll come to some of the agenda, some of the conclusions where we really can help students by lowering the fees and increasing the benefits.
Thank you. And your final question is, how can you make sure your budget and SA spending adequately goes to students who need it most, such as those from equity-seeking populations?
Well, that we can definitely be covering from the feedbacks and uh, from the from the questions and from the problems which we are having accepting from the students. Like we are going to prioritize all the services according to the students' need. So definitely, I'll try to focus on the situation where a student with the most need will get the benefit first. And so this is where the association has to work, and we will definitely work on that.
Thank you. So that was the final question for the Director of Operations. So thank you for joining us for the forum today. And thank you to each of the candidates. Voting will open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and students will be able to vote until 8 p.m. this Friday. To cast your vote, go to sagbc.simplyvoting.com. More information on how to vote can be found at studentassociation.ca/elections. And it's open now, so you can vote after watching this. And thank you.